Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline Studio. I'm Sybille Muschik. Behind the camera is Joshua Blanc. We're continuing on with marbling today, and I've already put some drops in my size. I made some new size. Hopefully this stuff is going to work, and I'll just show you what I've been up to the last few days. And just love marbling. It's so much fun, very therapeutic because it's sort of meditative. I've also been doing stuff with some fabric. So when I had the vat, I put the fabric down and then I put my paper down. And here's the difference. You have to wash the cloth. I didn't prepare the cloth with alum, and today we'll be using it with alum and we'll see the difference. So this is one example. This one's actually a little nicer. I think this was the first one I did actually, and so this is the cloth, no alum, and here's the pattern, also no alum on the paper. So it seems to, the carrageenan seems to work really well, whether you have, the alum on it or not. Okay, so I've already put a few drops on just to save time, and we're going to start, and I'll probably do the same thing as we just showed you, and we're going to go back and forth. This is called galget in Turkish marbling, and it's gal apparently is back and git is forth. So, and I put a little bit of copper in. And you could, I don't know if your camera would pick up the fact that it looks iridescent on the surface. So once you do it from one side, then you do the other. And I'm hoping for somewhat of a peacock pattern. I have well, I don't have exactly the right tools, so we're not going to get, this is more homemade. I have some of the, marbling tools from a kit. And then my hubby made me this one, and this is supposed to help with getting that peacock pattern. We will see. I have an example of what that kind of thing, as far as I can do it. But, and this one, you wiggle it back and forth a little bit. And this one is more a straight pull. But you can see, how the offset nails create this sort of pattern where it separates the, I don't know what you would call these things. What would you call those, Josh, you think? Sort of little lines. We'll have to think of some fancy name. I don't know the name for that. So we have our galget done, and now we'll take the big rake and go take that through. That sort of separates it into rows. There we go. And then this makes those little loops, I guess maybe we can call them, smaller.
They look a bit like fractals.
Okay, we'll call them fractals.
I'm not sure if that's technically correct.
No, probably not. They have, in the Ebru field, they have all sorts of technical terms. And be sure, and this is this tool that creates that pattern of the peacock. Now, professional studios, they actually have like a grid thing. They have these enormous vats to begin with, and then they have a big rack with all the nails down that go into paint, and those sit on the this medium here that we have, the size, and so it puts dots in specific places, and then they have the big tools like this. And they, So everything is very organized, and that's why it's so perfect. Well, we're never going to get that in a little studio situation like here, where you're just doing it for fun, but you can get so many interesting results. So let's try this on some fabric, our sized fabric. And I'll put it in where I think it's the most interesting. It might end up with a few little places because it was kind of wrinkled. I should have maybe ironed them, but I didn't. Wasn't sure what ironing would do. For this, once it dries, you have to heat set it. So I just put a towel down and run my little hot iron as hot as you can get it, and then that heat sets it maybe for about between 10 and 20 minutes. So just make sure there's no air bubbles anywhere. And we'll pull the paper first. And this is one of those ooh ah moments, right, when it comes out and you have this gorgeous looking piece. It turned out not too bad. We'll just set it here on the, so you can have a look at it. So as far as the peacock pattern, it's not bad. I mean, it's not perfect. My little comb isn't perfect, but it's not bad. I'll move it over so we can make the comparison between the paper. Oops, we ripped the paper. It's okay, cropping is possible. Okay, let's lift out the fabric. Colors could be a bit stronger. I don't know if the copper will show up. It's on the surface, it should be. And let's just... So, with the sizing on the fabric, it looks pretty good. I'll just get Josh to take this one off. Thank you. And one thing you have to do with fabric is you do have to rinse it. So I'm just going to take it to the sink. We'll give it a quick rinse. That just gets all the sizing out. And it really hasn't changed a lot, as you can see. So it's definitely worthwhile doing alum for fabric. Now, if you had a whole whack of these, you know, just think how pretty it would be if you made something out of it like a quilt. You could do a whole mess of them. You know, if you kept to a similar style of working, I mean, they're never all going to be the same, but they'll be similar, so they can be worked with. Okay, it's a bit of a messy business, but if you like playing puddles. Okay, now we're back to clearing our size, just so we're ready for the next one. We're going to try working on black paper. And I've been messing around with my paints for a few days, and sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. I have tried using different mediums, and in the last video I talked about adding Zinsser. It's an acrylic extender, and I've also been, just so it doesn't travel so that much, that's my main problem by the look of it. Anyway, this is satin glazing liquid. If you add this to the paint as well, remember we're working with acrylics, not water-based paints like the Ebru marblers. So, you know, you're going to have a few more difficulties. Nothing too serious, but enough to be a bit of a pain. So we're going to try some with black paper here and a little bit more cloth, and we'll work with light colors as far as we can. I'm just using those little plastic straws. I also have the other kind here, just regular little straws. You just make the stuff up on your own. If you have a straw broom, just chop a few pieces off discreetly so that nobody knows. And then, it doesn't have to be big. I just bundle it up with a little bit of elastic. So I'm going to put a fair amount of white on and see what happens. It's fairly dry in my studio, so I'm keeping the plastic on there. So we had well, I don't know if the copper actually worked. We'll have to see when it dries whether it's actually even visible. But it seemed to spread quite nicely, so don't want to put too much on or the colors coming after will sink. We'll give some violet in there. And it's a bit of a messy business. Sometimes these things leak on the side, you get it all over your hands and everywhere else. Kids would love it as a result. Again, if you are working with children, supervision, right? Otherwise, your wallpaper might become really interesting. Well, dots everywhere. Okay. I shook this one up previously, so I'm not neglecting my shaking. And that's doing a reasonable job. You just don't want too much color in because the sizing won't take it. I guess the surface tension of the size changes as you put more paint on, and then things will sink. And sinking is not what you want. Okay, we want to keep it light, so let's try the yellow. I'm shaking this one for a while, so we'll do it again. Okay, we'll see. There. I can see a little bit of iridescence floating on the surface. So if we're lucky, we're going to get it in the paper and the cloth. That would be nice. Yellow is working for us. When it gets to a point of saturation, you're just not going to have anything working anymore. And that's when you have to quit and do your Gelget stuff. This one is a real traveler. So you stir it up. Now my mix is a small amount of paint, and I'm using Amsterdam acrylics for the most part, or some of the paints that came with the kit, and then some half Zinsser, and then in some cases I've added the medium I showed you, the satin glazing liquid. Just plain water and paint just doesn't seem to work for me, so there are a number of variables that you have to consider. So now this is sinking, so I think we're at the saturation point. We can try one more blue maybe to see what. Oh, it's still moving a bit. Okay. The whites and the other things are a little more sensitive. and they're probably sitting at the bottom of the size, which is not what we want, but whatever. So again, I'll get back and forth, back and forth. And this is, you can print this as a feather pattern, which is very pretty. If you leave it with just the drops, it's called a stone pattern. And in the first video on my marbling, I demonstrated a true Ebru paper with the stone pattern. My dear Turkish friend who took marbling classes from experts. Okay, so we can do it back and forth again, but let's just do some of this. If you haven't totally saturated your size, you can go back in and do more circles. We can try. Maybe the violet will work. Yes. And then just repeat. You can make nice hearts. Just going through a circle gives you a heart like that, right? You have to try this. It's just way too much fun. And I think I may previously mentioned that you don't need to necessarily have carrageenan moss, which is quite expensive. You can use methicellulose. You can use probably even flour, you know, boil down flour and thicken the water with that. You would have to rinse, so just doing little circles, and then we'll try the peacock tool, that's what I call it. And I just have garbage paper on the side here, damp it off, you can wipe it off. Now, maybe a few more little circles here and there. Not sure the camera is picking this up because I can barely see it, but it should be a jazzy print. So I'm just going to put cloth down. This is 80% cotton, 20% polyester. Now, natural fibers are, of course, the best. Things like cotton, linen, rayon, of course. Silk, of course, would be lovely. A lot of people make marbled silk scarves and make a bundle doing that. I'm just going to place this down. This is the correct way of placing things. And it flops a bit, so you have to be careful. And make sure my cloth is a little bit longer on one end, but I can crop that off after. And then make sure that you've picked up all the pattern. Just run your little stylus over the back. Now, because this is so dark, I'm not sure we'll print it on black paper this time. Turned out way darker than I expected. This is unmordanted paper, which means I haven't added alum to it. But with carrageenan, it picks it up really well. with methyl cellulose, you definitely have to use mordant. Okay. Thank you. Okay, here's paper. And see our little swirls? Hopefully you can see that. Paper here. For the cloth. And again, I have to rinse this. Scrape it off really well. Take it to the sink. And it's not much lighter at all, so. Now, this kind of fabric lends itself to book covers as well. You just have to have maybe good PVA glue. And of course, you could, you know, sew a few together, maybe make a t-shirt front or an apron. There's no end of this. Is just gorgeous. All right. Now we'll go back to try and get our light colors better. So, okay, I'll give this off to Josh here and they'll remove the evidence. Okay, here's me with my hake brush. I have cleared the vat and, ooh, this is going nicely. All right. See, because we're working on black paper, I want lots and lots of light colors. I haven't put much black in this session because it was behaving badly and I'm not happy with it. The Garboonies must have got to it or something. And this is looking very much like the stone pattern, which is fantastic. I'm not really into the formal designs. I like more messing with things and trying to get figurative work and stuff like that. When I do this, I tend to get all over the place, so. And I'm going to try some green and yellow. And hopefully that won't be too dark. This is a phthalo green. It travels really well. Ooh, as you can see, wow. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put some in a little tiny container. You see the mad scientist at work here, and we'll add other stuff just to control it more. I just added a little bit of opaque white to it, and maybe we'll get it to behave itself. Yes, much better. Sometimes with this stone pattern, you get something like a kind of agate look, which is really spectacular. And the more you put on the side, the smaller this monster circle will be pushed in. We might have luck going back to our ecru color here. Okay. Oh, see, it's gonna sink in there. Looks like a landscape, doesn't it? Or a gnarled old tree, and that's the stars in the sky. Have all sorts of imaginative little stories to tell here. Oh, it's traveling quite a bit. Still getting our stone pattern, which is good. And maybe we're better off with our yellow again separate. We'll try, this is a light mixture. We can add a little bit more yellow to it. This will be a nice light lemon yellow. Okay, staying put. And the copper just to give it some iridescence. Move the purple or violet around a little bit better. It's amazing how it changes. You can just do this for hours. Josh is probably falling asleep over there while I'm...
I was.
It is very meditative, I told you. It just sort of lulls you off to another, maybe a couple of little drops, and then we're done. Not too many bubbles. Now, you know, I'm saying that bubbles are a bad, you know, little air bubbles are a bad thing. What you can do is have a little sprayer with just plain water in it, and that will add little white spots to your work if you want. That's one way of getting, if you're working on a white background. Are we happy with that? What else could we do? We could try the blue again. And it's just amazing that because the colors don't mix and stand discrete, you can get away with all sorts of insane combinations. And these sort of areas in here is what makes it look like, you know, gravel and whatever smaller particles in amongst stones. Okay, I think we're done playing. We're at the exciting part here. We're going to put some fabric down. And we were going to put the first black paper. Cross your fingers that it's going to be visible. I have one piece I can show you. I'm not sure the camera will pick it up because it's quite dark. And I'm going to go back into it with lighter pastels. So even if something comes out really dark, I mean, we're multimedia artists, right? This is it. And this is unsized paper too, so, and it just reminded me of, I don't know, like waves. I was trying for waves actually, and a moon. Maybe a moon with a halo around it. And our little wavy things for the sky. So if I enhance some of these colors, I think it's going to be quite nice on black paper. So no end of things you can do. All right, so we're making sure everything is doing well here. We'll do, scrape this one off. And I gotta rinse this. Remember, it's gotta go to the sink. Okay, Josh has given me a paper. And it's so transparent you can see the advertising through it. But it's quite beautiful. And let's get this off of here and see what happens. Okay. So that's quite nice. See, it works on black paper. And because I have put the mordant on it, it really does pick up all the color better. Let's just show this without the advertising underneath. Okay. So, you know, I could go on and on all day like this. But I think you get the idea. Well, we do have a lot of fun here at Shoreline Studio. So please come and join us again. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Our channel is growing, maybe not by leaps and bounds, but it's doing okay. And we're so grateful, and thank you so much for watching and following along with our little adventures here. So take care of your families. Bye for now.